Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Have you ever been on a project where honestly, just trying to talk to your team feels like complete and utter chaos? You've got this great group of people, super clear goals, but somehow the wires just keep getting crossed. Emails vanish into the void, instructions get completely flipped around, and suddenly you're spending way more time managing the chatter than, well, doing the actual work. If you're not in your head right now, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're going to dive right in and decode exactly how we can tame all that chaos using project communications management. Let's get into it. Okay, so to start us off, we really have to address the elephant in the room here. Why on earth do bigger teams struggle so much with communication? Honestly, it feels totally counterintuitive, right? I mean, we naturally assume that if a massive deadline is looming, throwing more hands on deck is going to lighten the load and smooth things out. But actually, adding just a few more people to a project almost always causes miscommunication to just skyrocket. What used to be a quick, hey, how's it going, across the desk suddenly morphs into this endless nightmare chain of confusing updates and conflicting priorities. Well, it turns out there is an actual hard mathematical reason for all this frustration. So no, it is absolutely not just in your head. Take a look at the communications complexity formula right here. It's n times n minus 1 all divided by 2, where n is just the total number of people on the team. And I just find this fascinating because this formula mathematically proves that as your team grows, your communication channels don't just step up one by one. No, they grow exponentially. It's like a giant web that just explodes outward. To really see the practical impact of this, let's build it out into the real world. Just notice the very first row of this table. If you have a tiny project team of, say, 5 people, the math tells us there are exactly 10 possible channels of communication. Now, for a project manager, making sure those 5 people are aligned across 10 channels, pretty easy, right? But look at what happens when you add just 5 more people. A team of 10 doesn't just double your channels to 20, it literally explodes those potential channels to 45. And what if your project scales up to 50 people? Oh boy, you are suddenly dealing with 1,225 distinct lines of communication. So, the absolute crucial takeaway here is this staggering multiplier, 4.5. I mean, really think about the gravity of that for a second. If you just double the size of your project team, going from 5 to 10 people, the number of communication channels doesn't double, it increases 4.5 times. In the real world, this means a project manager has to spend 4.5 times the effort just to make sure everyone understands what's going on. You literally have to work over 4 times as hard just to keep a team twice the size on the exact same page. Wild, right? Section 1. The solution, the 3 management processes. Let's look at how to fix this. I know, seeing numbers like that might make you want to swear off working on big teams forever. But hey, don't panic. You really don't have to just surrender to that exponential chaos. There is actually a highly structured, professional way to handle this and take back control of your project. And it all boils down to 3 crucial survival steps. Step 1, plan. This means figuring out the specific information needs of your stakeholders way before the noise even begins. Step 2 is manage. This is the execution phase, creating, distributing, and eventually storing or disposing of those communications based strictly on that plan you just made. And finally, step 3 is control. You've got to constantly monitor the whole environment to make sure everyone's needs are actually being met throughout the entire life of the project. Now, looking at this summary timeline, notice exactly when these steps are happening. Planning? That happens right at the starting line. You're pouring the foundation. But look closely at the executing phase, where you actually manage communications, and the monitoring and controlling phase. Notice how those arrows stretch all the way from the beginning to the absolute finish line of the project? Yeah, communication management is definitely not a one-and-done task you just check off a list at the kickoff meeting. It's a continuous, highly active process that needs your attention every single day until the project closes out. Okay, so for those of you who really appreciate some deep structure, take a look at this overview map. We're definitely not going to sit here and read every single bullet point, but I do want you to see the rigorous methodology behind each of these 3 phases. Whether you're planning, managing, or monitoring, there is a very specific set of inputs you need, tools and techniques you're going to use to process them, and concrete outputs you have to generate. So it's not just about, trying to talk better. It's actually a science. It's a formalized system specifically designed to untangle that massive web of communication channels we were calculating earlier. Section 2. Building the communications plan. This is where it all starts. Building this plan is really the heartbeat of the whole process, because without it, well, you just default right back into that exponential chaos. Every single project needs some type of plan, because this is the ultimate playbook that guides all your communications. Now, a really common misconception here is that this plan has to be some heavy, bureaucratic nightmare of a document. It totally doesn't. Notice how the scale of the plan completely scales with the project. For a tiny project, your plan might literally just be a team contact list and a super simple table showing who needs what. Easy, lightweight, done. But for those massive projects, the ones with dozens or hundreds of people, yeah, it absolutely must be a separate, comprehensive document to handle that intense multiplier effect we talked about. So, what actually goes into one of these comprehensive plans? Well, the core ingredients are all completely focused on stakeholder needs. First off, you have to document exactly what information needs to go out. And I mean specifics, the format, the actual content, and the level of detail. I mean, does your project sponsor want a high-level, quick-glance dashboard, or do they want a massive, deep-dive spreadsheet? You need to know. Next, clearly define who actually gets this information, and just as importantly, whose job it is to make it. And finally, map out the frequency. Are we talking an hourly update, a quick weekly stand-up, or a massive monthly review? Getting all of this down on paper just sets super clear expectations for everyone from day one. But if you want a truly resilient plan, you've got to go one step further and include some procedural lifelines. These advanced contents are honestly what prevent a total meltdown when things go wrong. For example, you absolutely need clearly defined escalation procedures. If a massive issue suddenly blocks the project, who gets that SOS call first and exactly how fast? You also need revision procedures for updating the communications plan itself, because let's be real, projects are always changing. And then there's one of my personal favorites, a glossary of common terminology. You would be totally amazed at how much chaos you can avoid just by making sure everyone on the team has the exact same definition for a word like complete or approved. Okay, so bringing this all together, the crucial point we've been driving toward with all these plans and math formulas and process maps, it's all encapsulated right here. The ultimate goal of project communications management is to ensure the timely and appropriate generation, collection, dissemination, storage, and disposition of project info. Or, to put it in plain English, you just want the right information to reach the right people at exactly the right time with the right amount of detail. Absolutely nothing more and nothing less. Which brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought for you to take away from this explainer today. I want you to look at your own projects right now and ask yourself, are you truly managing your team's communication, or are you just adding to the noise? Seriously, remember that exponential math? Every unnecessary email you send, every vague meeting you schedule, every poorly defined update, it literally multiplies the effort your team has to expend. But by actively planning, managing, and controlling your comms, you don't just lower your own stress levels. You actually empower your entire team to focus on what they do best. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I highly challenge you to take these insights and use them on your very next project.